I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. And I am so happy to announce our guest today, Shaun Lake. He is a former professional snowboarder who went on to join Burton Snowboards as Shaun White's team manager and land a spot as the director of sports marketing at DC Shoes. After decades in action sports marketing, Shaun co-founded BUBS Naturals, a line of collagen peptides and other all-natural supplements named after Shaun's childhood best friend, Glenn "Bub" Doherty, a Navy SEAL who was killed in Libya on 9/11 in 2012. A devoted husband, father, and fitness fanatic, Shaun is passionate about helping people feel great and do good, which is the motto for BUBS Naturals. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Thanks so much for having me on. I couldn't resist having a conversation with someone who's probably swung a kettlebell way more times than I have.
Well, definitely is my passion for sure. So give us a little bit about your journey, because you have a professional snowboarder, right? That marketing that you did and that team. Tell us how you got from there to here, because I think that journey is a really interesting one.
Well, I can tell you it was not a straight road. And I think, boy, if there's a script you're supposed to follow in life, I forgot it back in high school, and, it stayed somewhere. So it's been a bit of a journey. I was really passionate about skateboarding and snowboarding in high school. So this is in the late 80s. I'm 50 now. So just to frame it up, in the late 80s, these were my passions. Like I didn't gel with normal traditional sports. I wasn't on the soccer team or the football team or those kind of things. I kind of found myself in this counterculture environment, and that really aligned well with how I thought. I was always thinking kind of this against the grain style. And it's interesting because I sought out community, I think the way we all do. My community was a little bit different at the time. And when I went to college, my head wasn't in the game, and my mom knew it. My dad knew it. I wasn't there. I did it. I went through the motions, but I was dreaming of the mountains. I was dreaming of adventure. I was dreaming of this life I felt like I should be leading. And so I came home from my freshman year in college. I had an abysmal grade point average. I just wasn't applying myself. And I pitched my mom on the idea of dropping out of college to go chase the dream of becoming a professional snowboarder. Now, I didn't know what it would take to get there, other than I had the passion in my head to go and do this thing. It was an uncharted career path. I didn't know if anyone made any money doing it. There was no rules, or, it's not like it is today where there are camps and there's a process. Back then it was the Wild West. It was just something I was very, very passionate about. And my parents looked at me like I was crazy, but what was crazier to them was lighting money on fire on a college education where their 18-year-old son wasn't applying himself.
Yeah.
So I think somewhat reluctantly, they kind of said, well, go do you. And they figured I would go do it for a year and then come back. So I moved to Utah with my best friend from high school, Glenn Doherty, and we go out there, and he's going to become a pro skier and I'm going to become a pro snowboarder. And we're both the dropouts. We're like the only college dropouts in our entire high school. And we're living this wild life as dishwashers by night and chair lifties and riding snowboards and skiing all day long. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that year, I got some free equipment, very, very light in level of endorsements, because, I done well enough in a local contest, or had kind of like turned some eyes enough to have people be like, hey, that guy's okay. Like, we should give him some stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was it. Like, I got just enough taste of that world to say, I'm in. So, fast forward 5 years, I didn't go back to school.
Mhm.
and I lived in the mountains, and I was, you know, banging nails in the summer, working odd jobs, and just doing everything I could to make it snowboarding.
Yeah.
And I just was snowboarding. That was it. That was the dream. That was the drive. And around age 24, I got paid to snowboard. I was getting paychecks to like represent companies and go out and film and be in the mountains and travel and all this cool stuff. So that ended up becoming my career. And around 25, I knew that I couldn't do it forever. I was like, well, I need an end game. Remember that whole college thing? That might not be such a bad idea. So I enrolled at the local college in Utah.
Mhm.
And I basically found a way to knock out a bachelor's degree while pursuing my career in snowboarding. I went summer
Wow.
semester, fall semester,
Mhm.
and then I took every winter off to ride.
Mhm.
And I turned 30. I got my degree. I knew I was kind of done snowboarding at that point. Like I'd been through a couple of sponsor changes, and I had a great time, traveled the whole world.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I think we're good. So I called up all my sponsors and I said, hey guys, like I'm out, and I'd rather quit than be quit, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. And
And
leave
I
on
think
your
there's
own
a time
terms.
to
Yeah.
hang it up
Yeah.
as an athlete, and it's different for everyone. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I just read an article about Buster Posey, who's a famous catcher for the San Francisco Giants, baseball player, and he's 34 years old. He just quit. He had the most lucrative contract waiting for him in professional baseball, and he said, I'm hurt.
Yeah.
I don't care what the numbers say, how great I'm performing. Like, I'm not in it. Same thing for me. I was like, there's younger kids coming up. They can do the job better. I'm
Yeah.
on to the next chapter.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to join the State Department. I got a degree in political science. My best friend Glenn had dropped out of skiing when we turned 25 to join the Navy and become a Navy SEAL. I had another high school friend who had gone into civil service and was working for the State Department. So I thought it would be a cool way to travel the world. And I was like, oh, I'll just take the civil service exam. I got my political science degree and I'll go join the State Department. That sounds like a lot of fun. I had no idea what the job would entail. But I thought carrying a handgun would be cool. And I'm basically waiting to take this exam. You know, I've got all winter long. So I'm like, I'll snowboard all winter and have fun. And then I get a phone call from a friend who was on the Burton Snowboards team. And then another buddy of mine, and they kind of tag team me and they said, hey, what are you going to do? Like, you really going to just quit and go work for the government? You can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to totally do that. They're like, well, you should apply for the Burton Snowboards team manager job. And I'm like, I don't want to be a team manager, like herding all the kittens around. Like, I'm not interested in that. I've been one of the kittens. Like, I don't want to have to take that job. But they're like, no, you'd be really good at it. You're a natural for it. Like, you should try. So I think some of the best interviews you ever do are the ones you don't care about.
Yep.
And because you can just sort of lay it all out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into the interview process with Burton Snowboards, the biggest snowboard company on the planet. And I just said everything that I thought was wrong with team management. And they loved it. And next thing you know, I got a job offer to move to San Diego to work with a young kid named Shaun White.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everyone knew who Shaun White was. He was like blowing up. He was about to win a bunch of gold medals at the Olympics and all that stuff. So it was a really neat way to get out of the mountains, take a real job. You know, it was very different than what the State Department job was going to be. And there we go, a completely unscripted plan of events that took me on a left-hand turn career-wise. And then I spent the next, you know, almost 15 years in the action sports kind of youth lifestyle space.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a little bit of a wacky journey, but it was fun. And that led to working with ESPN's X Games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked with Tony Hawk, who's, you know, famous skateboarder with his secret skate park tours. And then I spent 6 years at Quicksilver running the DC Shoes, you know, their action sports programs for a bunch of the sports. And it was super neat. Like, it was just it's like being in grad school. You just, you know, you learn a ton along the way. Yeah. And, you know, during that time was really when fitness came in to the picture, because remember, I stopped snowboarding when I was turning 30. And then around 35 or so, I kind of had this like kind of epiphanal moment where my best friend in the world is a Navy SEAL. He's the fittest guy on the planet. All of his friends in the Navy, who are my friends, are also the fittest guys on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sort of slugging along.
Yeah.
You know, this has-been who used to ride a snowboard, which isn't like the most athletic job. And I was like, I kind of need to get into shape. And Glenn, who I definitely attribute with this journey, kind
Yeah.
of whooped my ass into shape. And I discovered cycling and running and endurance-based sports. And then
Mhm.
in 2008, I discovered what CrossFit was,
Yeah.
very, very early in its existence. And I just hook, line, and sinker. I was hooked.
And away you went. Yeah. I
Well,
can see that.
it's so competitive. And
Yes.
I left my competitiveness, in snowboarding. I hadn't tapped
Mhm.
into it in several years, and all of a sudden, I found this excuse to like pour myself back into it,
Yeah.
I found myself really relishing in that.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. And you know what? I can totally relate to that because I think, everybody's different, of course. I don't want to generalize anything, but I'm a very competitive person. I grew up as a figure skater. And then, of course, again, you get to that age where, you really can't do singles anymore, right? Single skating. So then, you maybe go on the synchro team or you do some of these things. But then it was like I found kettlebells and I was like, oh my gosh, I can be competitive again. This is amazing, right? It was just like,
It's
so I know exactly how you felt because I felt the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's invigorating, and
It is.
you're not winning any competitions. Well, I'm sorry, in the kettlebell land, you absolutely were. In the CrossFit space, it
Yeah,
was like you're just sort of competing with yourself and with this very
100%.
tight knit community, and it fostered a great it just fostered a great fire inside of me that I could apply to work
Yeah,
and I could apply in relationships, and it just started to bring out something in me that had been laying dormant for a few years in my 30s.
yeah.
So it was really neat to tap into that, and I definitely, give Glenn full credit for kind of opening my eyes to that space. And then that's it. It's been in my life ever since.
Ever since. Yeah.
Now, there's a bit of a jump to starting Bubs.
Mhm.
So, I discovered CrossFit. I fell in love with it so much. I was coaching. So here I am working my day job as a director of sports marketing, at DC. And then I'm coaching in like 6 o'clock in the morning, these morning classes, just because I
Yeah,
loved the experience. And I wanted to share it.
yeah.
And then, that chapter ends. Glenn and I become roommates again. He gets out of the Navy. He's
Mhm.
contracting for the CIA. He's doing this really dangerous job as a GRS security agent, traveling all
Wow.
over the world.
Yeah.
But then he's home a lot. And I, long story short, I get a divorce and I
Mhm.
move in with him. And all of a sudden, like, we're these two guys that were, roommates in our teenage years. We
Yeah.
were roommates in our 20s. And here we are in our late 30s and we're roommates again. And I'm like, well, I
Wow.
guess this is just meant to be. So we're having all this
Exactly.
fun. Yeah, I mean, this is the unscripted parts of life. And
Yeah.
two single guys turning 40 running around. I started a small marketing consulting firm
Mhm.
on the back end of my time at DC. It was really neat chapter to work on the outside of brands and being a part of that. So again, continued learning and stimulus. And it was super fun and very adventurous because when you're a consultant, you can work from anywhere. And much
Yeah.
like, pandemic life, you can kind of, as long as you get the work done, no one really cares.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and then in the fall of 2012, Glenn was killed in Benghazi, Libya.
Mhm.
And I mean, to kind of frame this for anyone listening in, he was my best friend since high school. He was my roommate during several chapters of life. He was more of a brother than a friend.
Yeah.
Right before Glenn died, like, about a year before, we had left our wills to each other, like power of attorney, executorship. I was his listed next of kin on his government paperwork, like
Yeah.
some pretty heavy stuff that you don't normally do with friends, but that was kind of where we were in our lives. Like our friends were our family.
Yeah.
And Glenn was best friend to hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, our high school buddies from Massachusetts, our ski bum buddies from Utah, our fitness buddies from San Diego, and a slew of Navy SEALs along the way that were his teammates. We were all in this big mashup of best friends. And when Glenn died, it really shook the foundation for a lot of us because Glenn was immortal. He was this larger than life personality. And I was in charge of his affairs. So I went from this kind of carefree lifestyle, like youth lifestyle, action sports, go do some CrossFit on the side, let's go on a ski trip and surfing and all this fun stuff, to, hey, this is national news. The
Yeah.
Benghazi terrorist attacks on 9/11 were everywhere.
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton's getting, taken to the woodshed for, what's going on her side. There's congressional hearings in the United States. There's all this stuff. There's a movie, 13 Hours, that gets made about the incident. My roommate is a character in this major film. It was really surreal, but the thing that came out of that was this drive to keep Glenn's memory at the table. And how do you keep this larger than life personality alive? How do you keep him in the conversation? Because if you met him, I promise you that you would be his best friend. Like, Lisa, you and he'd be like high-fiving, working out, having a beer afterwards.
Like swinging kettlebells.
Indeed. And like, but that's who he was. Like, he would bring out the best in everyone. So you wanted to preserve that and share that. So originally his family and I started a foundation. Let's help special operators, military professionals transition out of active duty to civilian life, primarily through scholarship. That was like job number one. Okay, that felt right. After a couple of years, the foundation was kind of doing its thing, and it was very rewarding, just like coaching is, to see people receive scholarships and kind of take those next steps in their lives. It was awesome. Then a couple more years later goes by, and everything's kind of died down. Benghazi's gone, the movie's out. No one's really talking about it as much anymore. And in 2017, my wife, who's several years younger than I am, bought me a jar of collagen protein. Now, we had a 1-year-old son, and she was pregnant with our second. And I was 45 years old at the time. And she said, "Hey, you're not getting any younger. I got to preserve your old ass."
Here's a gift for you.
And she's like, she's in the news business, and she's like, I heard about this, and you should start taking it. Just put it in your coffee. And I didn't know much about supplements, quite honestly. It's fascinating. I look at your journey in supplements, and I draw some parallels of like problem, solution, and the path to get there. Mine was a little more direct in a sense, because I was handed the solution. I didn't know what collagen was. I didn't know what it could do for you. I didn't know the benefits. What I did know was that my muscles hurt every day, and it hurt to get out of bed, and my knees were on fire constantly. And I took this product, this white powder. I called it cow powder. And I took the cow powder and I put it in my coffee every morning. And after about 3 weeks, my fingernails were growing like crazy. I mean, I was like, where are the clippers? And as a guy, you really notice that.
Yes, I can see that.
A week later, I needed a haircut. And I'm like, wait, I just got a haircut like a month ago. What's going on? And then about 2 months into the product, my knee stopped hurting. And it was like a big oh shit moment. Like, get up, get out of bed, go about your day. Like, I think we were traveling, we flew cross country. And I just remember being like,
you're like, oh, wait a second.
What's going on? Wait a second. And I remember telling my wife, Heather, I was like, I don't hurt. And she's like, that's nice, dear. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm in no pain. And that was it. Like, it unlocked faster mile times, better squats, better movement, and just better parenting. Like, I was moving well for chasing kid around and, like doing the thing. And I just became super, super passionate about collagen. Well, fast forward a couple more months, and I'm just taking it every day, and I'm all about it, and I'm feeling great. My future business partner comes over the house. He sees a jar of collagen, and he's an e-commerce guy. So he spends a ton of time building websites, knowing what shopping trends are. And he's a great person on digital commerce. And he just goes, "Oh, you take that stuff? We should start a company." And I'm like, I got a 1-year-old running around behind us. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur.
Wait a minute.
And he's like, yeah, but like the product works. It's growing. It's a growing market. And I said, well, he's like, don't you like it? And I'm like, oh my God, it's the best ever. I start raving to him about what I just told you about how great I felt. And I go, okay, well, what would a company look like? Like, let's just have that exercise. And we both said at the exact same time, well, whatever we do, we have to do something cool for charity. Opening line, both said it. And we're both charitably minded for different reasons. I had Glenn's charity. TJ had wanted to serve in the Navy, and he had some, medical things that got hit by a car, so he couldn't serve. But he'd always wanted to serve that community. So we just aligned on that mission-wise. And I said, well, if we give to charity, I know the charity. It's got to be Glenn's charity. And Glenn's call sign in the Navy was Bub. So we'll name the company BUBS Naturals as a tribute to Glenn and his way of life. This guy who stood for self-improvement, and he was always helping others. So every product we make will stand for self-improvement: collagen protein, MCT oil powder, apple cider vinegar, and 10% of all profits will go to support his charity and charitable causes in his name. And it just felt right. And heck, here we are 4 years later having a conversation about it.
That is fantastic. And like, wow, and it is one of those things too, right, where I appreciate the fact that it was so close to your heart, not only because of why it started, but because you did it because of your results, right? Because it's just so much closer to home, right? You just want to share with everybody because of the fact that it can help.
I know you know
so
what
much.
I'm talking about, because you had that personal experience. And when you're experiencing, a human failure, physical failure, and that becomes emotional failure. Like there's a lot of layers to how you feel and how you're performing. And all of a sudden, when you unlock that secret, it's like, it's not a secret. Now you want to share it. This can change your life. And our job, there's a million collagen companies out there. There's a sea of sameness in collagen. Our goal was to differentiate and show the world that, hey, you can get the best collagen on the planet. And that's our job. Like, I'm not going to put anything in this jar that bears my best friend's name if it is not the absolute pinnacle in quality. So everything we make is NSF certified for sport. And we also proudly bear the Whole30 approved mark. So the Whole30 diet. So no collagen out there has both NSF certified for sport and Whole30 approved. Like, we have 100% certify for sport. And that's something we're very proud to be able to do, to showcase, like, hey, here's solubility, here's flavor, here's performance. Look at the amino acid profile in our product. It's right there where you need it to be. And that was super important to us. We didn't know if people would care. Do people care about charitable giving? Like that was something we just didn't know. We didn't have data.
Of course.
It was hard. That was it.
Well, and sometimes that's just the way you have to go, right? You just have to follow your heart, and what you feel is the right thing to do, because there's not always all of that data for you to be able to see what's happening, because literally you're paving the road to something that nobody's doing, right? And it's an exciting but scary journey all at the same time, because you really don't have a model to follow. But here you are, so it was all good.
If I didn't have this whiteboard behind me, who knows what had happened.
I know, right? I know. And so we touched on, just before we started the show, we want to talk about getting into your fitness groove in 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah.
I said to you, I'm like, I have so many people that say, oh, it's just because I'm getting older. That is my absolute, I can't even listen to somebody say that, because I'm like, that is so wrong. Why do you think that way? I don't understand.
Well,
let's talk about that, because that's a real thing.
I mean, you're so right. I mean, that is out there, and that is pervasive, that mindset. But that's just what it is. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
And if you can set your mind one way, you can reset it another way. It takes time and it takes effort. Nothing happens overnight. There's no magic pills. I stand by that statement 100%. But if you're of the mindset that I'm getting older, I'm going to move slower, things aren't going to work quite as well. I mean, then you can also have a mindset that says, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to settle for less. I'm going to put in the work.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you get from one to the other? Because it feels like a very radical jump. And that's where people need to you need to bridge that gap. And I believe in really simple, actionable ways to get from A to B.
Yeah.
So I'm getting older. Okay. There's a ton of information on the internet about supplementation, about diet, that you can change. That is not hard. What do you cook in the morning for breakfast? Whatever that answer is, it's your answer. How could you make it better?
Yeah.
Right? Incremental changes. Well, listen, when it comes to fitness, 70% of your fitness comes in the kitchen. I don't care what you say, 70% is in the kitchen.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
You get 3 meals a day. Make those 3 meals count.
Yeah.
Dial in how you can treat those meals a little bit better. Don't be 100%. This isn't, you know, hard, fast rules, but you get 3 meals, right? Well, let's say you have 3 crappy meals a day. Like, you know, you can look in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say that burger and French fries at lunch was probably not the healthiest choice. Okay. How do you make that better? Have the burger in a lettuce wrap, skip the fries and have it with a salad. You know, you can dial and tweak and still get that kind of satiating feeling that you want to get, that gratification from the meal, but just make some adjustments to it. And it's going to be different for everyone. But if you start with the diet, then you look at the fitness side. Okay, it's too hard. You're getting too old. It hurts too much. You can't walk around the block. Take that next Zoom call in your pocket with AirPods in and walk. Just go for a walk, 30-minute walk, 15-minute walk, just incremental steps. The kettlebell, I'm going to use it as a great example. Doesn't matter what weight. My business partner, we always do these little challenges back and forth, right? And we're further down that fitness journey than maybe some folks that are in the camp A of I can't do it, and, you know, all those excuses. We do these little things like little movement challenges. 50 kettlebell swings a day for 30 days. Okay. And then it's 50 unbroken. And then it's Russian swings, comp swings. It's, you know, like variety, single arm swings, different weights. But the idea is, well, what if it started with 10? Just 10 a day. It's not that it's doing much for your fitness. It's doing something for your head. It's giving you an attainable goal that you can accomplish. You can check that box. And then maybe the next day you can check it again. By the 7th or 8th day, guess what? You're in habit mode. Now you've got something that you can really start to build on. Maybe instead of 10 swings, I'll do 15. Maybe instead of 2 blocks walking around my neighborhood, I'll do 3. And all of a sudden, maybe that 3 blocks turns into a light jog. So it's just a building block. It's really just changing your mindset from I can't to I can. And, you know, it's hard to do much more than that in this format, other than to say the answers are out there. You just got to look. And by the way, where you're looking isn't that it's out there. You're going to find them right in here. It's all going to happen inside your own head. So the same excuses that are telling you can't is the same head that's going to tell you can. But there's also something else about it, which is getting old can suck.
Okay, now we want to know more about that comment. What does that mean exactly?
Well, so this goes back to the aches and pains, right? Like I knew when I was 35 that I still wanted to snowboard at a high level, right? That was vanity. I wanted to look good. And I wanted to do these things so that I looked good, felt good, and could still snowboard good or surf good or do the sports. CrossFit helped me tap into that, of course. Like it was competitive, and I liked the byproduct of the competition, which was like, you know, felt really good. But it changed with family and it became real. It also happened with age. So those two things for me happened together, starting a family and pushing into my 40s. I just didn't want to lose what I had. I didn't want to quit. And I don't think that's unique. That's not a unique mindset. Like, oh, Shaun's a unique butterfly over here with his, I don't want to quit mindset. It's no, like I really enjoy being able to just drop everything and run down the street and, you know, pick up my kid, or I enjoy being able to swing a kettlebell. I enjoy being able to paddle out in the lineup of, you know, I got a surf break right behind my office and know that I can hang with anyone that's in the water there. And if I decide not to surf, it's not because I can't. It's not because I can't make it into the water. I can't paddle. I don't have the energy or the stamina. And that desire to keep doing things, I think, is inside of all of us. And if you slipped, guess what? The good news is you can get it back. The bad news is it's going to take a lot of effort and you got to commit to it. So it was both things. It was getting older, you know, and this is where collagen helped. Collagen was critical because I just thought I was going to live in pain and discomfort.
And you don't have to. There's so many things now that can help with that, you know, and that's where it's frustrating when people are at that point and maybe don't know where to reach out to next. And so, and you're right, your analysis of the little things, right? I feel like people are in that mindset where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do what I used to do. It's like, well, maybe you won't be able to do exactly what you used to do, but you should be able to get pretty close if you take the right steps to be able to check that box instead of keeping like missing the box every day because you're trying to do too much, right? And all that does is make you down, thinking that you can't do it, and that's not helping changing that mindset. Yeah. Amazing. And so before we sign off, what I want to talk about is you also have another product that I was checking out, MCT powder. Let's talk about that because
no problem. So this is why I am alert right now. So MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride. Sounds really scientific.
Yeah.
All it is coconut oil. So take the oil of a coconut. It's a long chain fatty acid. Break it down into a medium chain. What does that mean? It means the fatty acid, the molecules are smaller. If they're smaller, they work into your bloodstream that much faster. Ketones, energy. They also go up in and pass through the blood-brain barrier, and your brain uses them for food, mental focus, energy, and mental focus. Who doesn't want better mental focus, right?
We all do.
And energy. So we knew it was out there. There was this whole bulletproof coffee craze that had happened, and everyone was talking about high-fat coffees.
Yeah.
Well, if you take that high-fat coffee, it's really messy, it's really oily, and it does not taste good. Like it tastes crappy. And at BUBS, we believe that if you're going to create a new healthy habit, man, it better taste good. Or in the case of collagen, you just don't taste it at all. And that was the goal. Make an attainable habit that is repeatable, that can become a lifestyle. And that's feel great, do good.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the MCT space, it was, if you can take MCT oil with all those benefits around, you know, mental focus, the sustained energy. I mean, you get energy for hours. I don't drink coffee in the afternoon anymore. I just have a cup of coffee in the morning and I'm done for the day. And I used to be like 3-4 cups a day, like so tired, and that's gone. And I attribute that to the healthy fats that you get from the MCT. Like, it's not like you're going to get fat.
Yeah.
It's a healthy fat. You're going to burn that for your energy. And we sprayed it into tapioca starch. Well, it's keto diet friendly. It's paleo diet friendly. And it's a great little sponge carrier, and it's really creamy. So it's like putting like a little creaminess in your cup of coffee, and it's flavorful. There's a little hint of coconut behind it. It's delicious. Oh,
amazing.
All right. Healthy benefits, tasty. And I love it. It's part of the daily routine. I've been hooked on it ever since. I'm not a keto diet person per se.
Yeah.
I don't go into ketosis and practice that, but the diet that I do have is lower in sugars.
Yeah.
I don't have a sweet tooth. I don't chase that. Maybe with the exception of Halloween. And, and we all get a hall pass there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it naturally worked for me. Like the sugars weren't working against the healthy fats. And that's, again, these are the fine tunes in a diet. Hey, if you're drinking a creamer in your coffee, it's loaded with sugar. If you put skim 100%. Milk in your coffee, there's a ton of sugar in skim milk. The fattier you push your cream, the less sugar there is. Your body wants the fat for energy, not the sugars. Sugar goes peak, valley. Fats go, here you go. You got the energy all day. Keep going.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic product. I treat it like a non-dairy creamer effectively.
That's amazing.
And that and the collagen go really well together. So I just put it in a cup of coffee in the morning,
and away you go.
I'm good for the day.
That's excellent. Wow. Well, we're going to have some more information in the description. Make sure you take a look, and we'll have a link obviously to BUBS Naturals so you guys can check it out and try some of these amazing products. I'm definitely going to try the MCT powder because I haven't tried a powder yet. I use MCT oil all the time, but I've never tried a powder. So I will try that for sure.
Well, I the good thing is, you know, a guy, and
exactly.
I have it on good authority that there's a nice little VIP box that is going to clear customs and make its way to you shortly.
Oh, that's so thoughtful and amazing. I can't wait. It's always wonderful to get new things to try and see how they are. I'm excited about that for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Shaun, for sharing so many great things today. And, if one person has an aha moment or maybe gets walking around the block or swings a kettlebell 10 times tomorrow, then we have done our job of sharing about fitness and health. So thanks for taking the time to be here with me today. And so
Thank
for
you
those,
so much.
absolutely. And for those of you who are watching, we have a brand new episode on YouTube every 2 weeks. Give us a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel. And for those of you listening on your favorite podcast host, make sure you give this episode a like, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to Peptiles.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.